In Art of Use Meteor Part 179, Kia and Cosmos. This is a Bengali movie that retells the story of the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime, but in India and with entirely gender-swapped casting, and it's a cat named Cosmos instead of a dog. Conceptually, fascinating. Also, shameless plug, I released a deep dive on the history and legacy of Curious Incident on my YouTube channel 2 weeks ago. You should go check it out. But anyway, while the concept is interesting, I did not find this film to be incredibly successful in that execution for primarily two reasons. The first is that the pacing made the story feel a bit sloggy, and at least for me, cut much of the pieces about the story that are interesting. The odyssey to find her father that starts halfway through the book did not begin until the final 30 minutes of the film, so it was a short montage rather than an arduous journey through facing a bunch of her fears. And it also slowed down a lot of the dialogue in the more tense scenes, and the film didn't begin by immediately dropping you in the middle of the chaos like the original story does. It eased you into it a bit, which sets a completely different tone. The second thing is that the story was largely seen as unadaptable until Simon Stevens turned it into a fantastic play that works. And part of this is because of how much it's from Christopher's lens. Another media tends to be a bit more firmly in the third person, but also because the story crosses over several genres and it is constantly jumping back and forth between different thoughts. They tried to do this a bit here, but it became a bit unclear what timeline we were in, and it didn't jump around enough to make that tone feel standard, so you couldn't get used to the rhythm of it. Part of what made the play so successful is how it did something new with the theatrical medium and crafted a design aesthetic of its own to accommodate the way Christopher tells the story, and I can't really speak to the legacy of autistic representation in Indian film. That is not at all my academic expertise, but at least looking at it from a US-centric view of representation, the design choices and editing choices made in this movie are all things that I consider standard when it comes to representing autism on film, and have been for nearly 20 years, which, in combination with the slow pacing, took away the feeling of sharpness and cutting edgeness that I usually associate with this story, and I felt that took a lot of the energy and spark out of it. And I think a lot of this is just how near impossible it is to adapt the original story, and I also watched it with the express purpose of analyzing it as a curious adaptation, so I'd be very interested to hear what somebody unfamiliar with the IP and or more familiar with Indian cinema thinks about this film.